everybody. What's up? Pastor Rob here from Gateway Church Grand Prairie campus. Okay, it's Tuesday night. It's 8 o'clock, and this is the time in which I ask other parents for help. It's called parenting help for a reason. You know, all of us go into marriage, a new job, parenting, thinking that we're going to be bosses in this way better than parents, right? I'm gonna show them how it's done. And so we get into it, and then all of a sudden we're like, I now understand the pain. I now understand why my dad got so many gray hairs when he got older, right? So it's hard, it's difficult. So tonight we had the Conlons, and guys, thank you for being here. Everyone that's watching, this is an amazing couple. I love using them and asking them to come to speak with marriage and now with parents, right? So they're going to help us, and they're going to give us an inside look. Now, every couple that I bring on here, they're not perfect, because you're not perfect. No one's perfect except for Jesus. And even God, who is the perfect father, had kids that rebelled, Adam and Eve. Come on. So let that be a little bit of grace for everybody out there. So Collins, thank you so much for being here. Would you start us all off by introducing yourselves, your kids and their ages?
So I'm Brad, and this is Melissa Conlon, and we've been married for over 23 years, and we have 3 kids. I'll let Melissa talk about them.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. So we have a 21-year-old daughter, Taylor, an 18-year-old son, Jacob, and a 16-year-old daughter, Brinley.
Awesome. Very cool. So a boy in the middle of 2 girls. You didn't want to try for one more just to even it out, like 2 boys, 2 girls, or do you have to get a different vehicle?
Well, they start leaving you, which they don't tell you about or prepare you for. You think, oh gosh, we should have had more. We should have had enough to where until we die, there's always one here to love on us.
Oh, to love on you, to help you. Okay, I got it. All right. Well, guys, welcome. Thank you for being here. So we're going to start it off. I ask every couple exactly the same question, and I get totally different answers, which I love, because I want different areas and different ways that each parent believes that they're winning, because we're winning in one way. We might be struggling in another, but I want to glean as much information as I can. And those that are watching, glean, put on your gleaning hat. I don't know, it's a bucket. I don't know. So what is one area that you guys feel like you've been winning or have won in parenting?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate what you said about letting everybody know that there is no perfect parent. When I first prayed about this, I felt like I heard an answer from the Lord, but then I started getting into my head about, oh, have we really won in that? And started thinking about all the things maybe I've done wrong as a parent. And I think that's natural. But I just kept going back to that same thing. And when I spoke with Brad, he had the same thing on his heart. So I figured there must be a reason we're supposed to share it. But again, coming from very imperfect people.
Yeah.
So one of the things I feel like we've won at, or that we've really tried to be conscious of doing, is allowing our kids to see that we're not perfect and allowing them to not be perfect. And how this started was one of our kids had a fit and ran off and slammed a door. And I think Brad and I both went to jump up and run after the kid, because, you know, when they're young, you want to say, no, we do not act like that. That is not respectful. You need to respect mom and dad. And I felt like the Lord said, how would you feel if right in the middle of your being upset, somebody got in your face and said, why are you acting like this? We don't act like this. And we allowed the child to be upset, and then went to them when they were in a better heart space and we were in a better heart space. And then you can really have an open dialogue of, wow, you were really frustrated, weren't you? That must have been really hard. Now, we don't slam doors. That's not the way we handle that. But then you have a more open dialogue. And a lot of times giving the kids the space would allow them to then come back to us and say, I'm so sorry I did that. Instead of trying to get into it in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think Brad and I have done this too, where we say, wow, I really messed up. I was hungry and I was frustrated because you weren't listening, and I raised my voice. You know, just not every day, but just allowing them to see that this is a safe place where you can have your feelings. They're real. We don't want them running the show, and we don't want to be disrespectful and hurt others, but You're allowed to have your feelings. You know, I've seen adults struggle with not knowing how to express their feelings, or, you know, stuffing their feelings. And so it was important to us to allow our kids to kind of live that out. And sometimes that means it's messy and they fight, and you kind of allow them to work it out, or you allow them to yell, which is not really what you want to do as a parent. But I think it's allowed them to learn how to work through conflict, and to then come back and say, wow, the Holy Spirit really talked to my heart and I shouldn't have done that.
Now, was this on your first child you figured this out, or was this last month? Like on
No,
your last one, you're like, finally.
no, that was with the oldest. I think she would
Okay.
be saying that. And this was when they were
Young.
quite a bit younger. So again, like I said, I think it's even helped as they've gotten older, like with their friendships, just to be able to express what they're feeling, know that you can work through conflict. It's okay to be imperfect with your friendships, and knowing like, it's okay, I'm still going to be loved in this place.
And I think it evolves, right? So when your kids are under the age of 10, or maybe even under the age of 13, it's a lot like what Melissa's describing here, which is, you know, you allow them to express and emote and go through that process, and at a calmer time, you know, help. And then, but as they get older, you know, you're hoping that all of that led to an equipping of them to be able to manage those things a little bit better on their own. And the fruit that the win that we've seen from that is, even, you know, because even, you know, 16, 18, and 21-year-olds get frustrated still, and get upset with mom and dad, or get upset with some other thing, or get upset with our trying to fix something, or whatever it might be. And they go off, very frustrated, but eventually kind of come back, or can on their own come back around, without us ever having to pursue, without us ever having to go. And so that would be the fruit from having done it at that point, at that place. And then I believe it begins to transition a little bit as they get older. And so and Melissa and I, as we kind of prayed about this and coming into it, she came from the angle that she just explained. I came from the angle of what's been more contemporary for their teenage years, and as they're transitioning into their young adult years, is we've really lived that out in our marriage and in our family. You know, the imperfections of what a marriage looks like, what our relationship looks like. You know, it's not all beautiful and perfect, and everybody gets along and we always agree. And I mean, we could not be more opposite of one another. And
isn't that how most marriages are?
yeah,
For sure.
No, I was just going to say, like how we tackle a problem or a project, you know, where we come at it from very different angles. And so just, you know, this is not all the time. Don't, like, I hope we're not painting a picture of like fighting and stuff all the time, but, you know, letting them see us kind of get into it, and not like, okay, we got to hide this in the bedroom, and then seeing how we work this through. Like, we both love the Lord, so our hearts are for each other. And eventually we're going to, you know, make sure that whatever we're working through, that we're on the same page, and that we're doing it respectfully. And so just kind of living it out, that we don't have to pretend that we're perfect or that we have it all together, but how the Holy Spirit quickly convicts our hearts after we miss it.
This makes me think, I know as you're talking, do parents, I guess you guys can just speak for yourselves, do we have a perfect standard? Are we trying to, maybe that's why I get so frustrated, is because they're not behaving perfectly, or they're not doing something right the first time. And mine are super young. So my wife is always reminding, which wives are amazing, because they're like, give me perspective. And like, they're 2, you know, they're 3, they're 4, like they're still learning how. Did you really show them? Do they really understand what you're saying? But I'm expecting them to be this perfect standard. And a lot of times, especially as Christians, we go to church and we're like, just pretend everything's okay. Let's have the perfect, you know, thing. And then other couples and families look at someone else and are like, well, they're making it happen. Do you feel like, did you feel pressure to or what did you I don't know. Do you know where I'm going with this? It's like there's a perfection that I think with this standard, and did you just realize we can't hang on to that?
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I want to say this because I think I can guess where Melissa's going to go on the standard and these things. And I want to say something to the men on this. And just as you explained, your wife, helping you give perspective and, hey, they're 2 years old and that sort of thing. It's important as men, as husbands, that we help give our wives perspective on the lack of perfection that they're actually seeing, that what they see on Instagram, what they're seeing in mom's group and what they're hearing in mom's group and any of those types of things is something that's just temporary, and that they're only giving you their resume or their interview best self. And because unfortunately we've just made it out to be that you have to be good and perfect all the time. Yeah. And Melissa's just, she's loved those friendships that she's had that have been real and been honest with, I haven't cooked at all this week, or whatever that looks like. And, because if not, these, our wives are going to see what's on Instagram and what they think they see on Sunday, because this family's always early and they're all put together and their shirts are pressed and whatever that might be. And so before she dives into her way of answering that, I just wanted to speak to the husbands in that it's important for us to also help give perspective on what reality is, and make sure that we're not putting undue pressure on our wives in addition to that, so that they know that we don't have those expectations on them as well.
Well, I think there definitely is that feeling of, and I was a young mom before Instagram and all that. But I just think, we love these kids so much. We want to do right by them. We want to raise them the best we can. So a lot of the pressure we put on ourselves, and, we had really sweet kids and they did behave most of the time, but I think I had to learn that shift of, it's not about their behavior, it's about their heart. And I really want to get to their heart. And so if that means walking through a little bit of messy behavior to get to the heart, I'm willing to do that instead of just stop the behavior right up, stop. And it's different, right? It's different if you're in public or if you're at home. You obviously have more time and patience to deal with some of these heart issues at home. But I think that just keeping their heart in mind and the long-term, what you're wanting them to love the Lord and to be a kind person. But they're people, they have emotions and they don't always know how to express them or put a name to them. And so sometimes just talking that through, like, what are you feeling? Are you hungry? Are you frustrated? Or did it make you mad? They know they're mad, but they don't know why. And so
something too that I heard from, we were at like an open house at the kids' school, probably almost 10 years ago. And one of the kids' teachers said that you could do one of two things. You could either constantly go out in front of the kids and pave the road and smooth out all the potholes and get rid of the speed bumps and make sure that they always have this smooth path in front of them, or you can equip them to know what to do and how to fix a pothole when they come across it themselves. And so I think that's part of what I think that's the summation of what we're talking about here is that we have always wanted to help equip our kids, not only for today and for how they should be behaving as an 8 or an 18-year-old, but also just as a human, and eventually as a sister or a brother or a friend or a husband or a wife or a mother or a father. And so, I think that's in essence what we're trying to say here, is that we've really tried to give them the tools for whatever life has for them next, so that we're not constantly having to do it for them.
I think parents, we rob our children of opportunities of growth by removing all the struggle. And I think that's amazing, because I just want them to shut their mouth, like just be quiet, like just, you can't get along, then I'm taking a toy. Like I remove an opportunity for them to figure it out. I rather just stop it, and then I take over and I remove the barrier, I remove the frustration. But then like you said, like when is the time, I guess, logically, I guess practically, I would say, how do you define when's an appropriate time to let it ride out? Because my pride gets in the way when I feel them run out and slam the door. So I'm like, okay, is this a pride thing, a disrespect thing? But I guess if they're so upset, they're not going to really comprehend the conversation I'm having with them. But when their mind is calm, go to a deep place in their mind and have a rational conversation that will promote longer change, I guess, or long lasting change. So how do you?
That's what I found too. It's really hard to talk to someone that's upset, but you could get a lot further. And again, if this was to continue happening, then that's a problem. Hopefully you'll get to the point where you can say, okay, first you're empathizing with them and you're feeling what they're feeling, but then, we don't want to sin in our anger. We don't want to hurt people. We don't want to be disrespectful. And so, and there were times when our kids were little, well, we just took the toy away too. I mean, when your kids are little, it is sometimes that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
So this is probably when they were getting a little bit older.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's now with a girl, 2 girls and a boy, how have you guys, because you said how you help each other, how have you guys given perspective when dealing with the opposite sex? So with your son, how has Brad told you, hey, this is a guy thing, like this is normal for boys or girls? Like you're telling Brad's like, hey, you can't talk to him like you would a guy. This is a girl. Like, can you give me any scenarios, or have you done that?
I think probably once the kids hit like 12 or 13, maybe there starts
we had to help each other a lot.
Yeah, we had to learn through that. Like there were certain things like, if it was about the girls, their clothes or their appearance, maybe I would handle that. And, just if there was something like
it can be, it can be very wounding for a father to, now I have the right as a dad to say what's appropriate or what's not appropriate, but even that it could become hurtful for a 13, 14-year-old girl that has a long lasting impact of a wound that's created. And so it's been, but I wouldn't have known any better had she not said things, right? And like some of the opposites for that would be like, I asked Jacob how his day was, and he said good. Like I have no idea who his friends are, what he's, you know what I mean? So it's like, well, you have to ask him more specific questions. What did you do today?
That's where it's so helpful, because Brad understands the mind of a boy, whereas, I understand the girls more. And so, it's that whole thing. Brad would come home and say, what did you do today? And I used to get so offended and mad and be like, what do you mean? What did I do today? But he's trying to connect. Mm-hmm. And what he really meant was, how was your day? Well, that helped me with Jacob, because if I said to Jacob, how was your day? He would say good. But if I said, well, what did you do today? Then he would tell me a long list
all day
of
long.
Things. So it is very helpful that he can help me with some of the boy things, and I could help him with some of the girl things.
I remember talking to somebody with a mom was dealing with their son, and they were having some issues. And I remember the aha moment of like the way that you talk to your son, just like your husband, his major need is respect. There comes a time at 13 that he wants to be honored and respected, even though he's 13 and he's got an attitude, but like, it's like he transitions into that. Now I know that's for guys. What is it for girls? Is there a thing, y'all that are watching? Like, I don't prep these couples for these questions. I just think of these and I'm just asking them, like, it's a free session that I get. This is for, anyway. So for girls, like, because I don't have any girls, I'm of 3 boys also. So it's like, I've only had boys. To those that have daughters out there, like, do you talk differently to girls too? Like their mega need, does that change?
I think so. We've studied a little bit about the love and respect, and I've taught my kids that dad needs respect, and because men do, that's like their greatest need. And so I think you're right. When our son turned about 13, I had to realize he is walking into manhood and he needs respect. now I'm still his mother, but you know, the way I spoke to him changed. It was no longer a, you will do the, you know, I changed the way I approached it. And I think in the same way that I said that maybe Brad would talk a little bit differently to the girls, they need to feel loved from their father. And so I might say, hey, I'll make sure they brush their hair. You just love on them. You know, I'll make sure that if they need, you know, if their dress is too short or whatever, I'll kind of handle that. You just love on them.
Because I think what happens a lot of times as males, we tend to, when our daughters are coming into womanhood, we kind of back off and we stop being as affectionate. And that's like, wait, that you still need to be affectionate. You still need to be loving to your daughters. Like that's when they need it, but we don't know how to handle, like, it's a girl, she's a woman now. Like, I don't know what to do. So
well, I'm sure that somebody else has said this, and we don't have to deep dive into it because we weren't the absolute best at it, but we have always made some intentional times, a few times a year, to where it's one-on-one, where I date the girls and she Jacob date. I mean, that is an important thing too, because what you're modeling for them, and just that one-on-one connection time helps bring everything that we've been talking about together as well.
But I think they do start to kind of physically pull away. You know, when kids are little, you're so physical with them. They're crawling all over you and they're hugging you all the time. And they stop doing that. And so we have to, as parents, be intentional to go up. And even if it's just because even if they don't act like they like it, they do. And they will never ask for it. And sometimes my girls will still kind of come up and put their head on my shoulder. But I think we have to, as parents, still kind of just give them, you know, little appropriate physical, because they still need it, even though they're kind of going through all those hormonal changes and growing up.
Good. I have one more question and then we're going to end it, because I was just thinking about this. I love how you guys are saying not trying to be perfect, even in your marriage. But here's the question that I'm trying to figure out, because I hear couples say that all the time. I've seen, what I was raised is you hear the argument, but you don't see the resolve. So then I'm thinking, well, how did it happen? But like practically, when does it cross over where you're like, we should have this conversation, like this isn't appropriate to have in front of them? What have you guys figured out? I'm not saying that you all are perfect or experts. I'm just getting opinions. But like, what have you guys, since you mentioned that they saw kind of the mess a little bit, when is it not appropriate?
I think what we're talking about, what we would do is, like, if we're bickering about how to hang a picture and where to hang it, or something like that, and we do always make sure they see how it, you know, how it kiss resolves. And make up, you know, we go to each other and we say we're sorry. I mean, I don't have a specific example, because
I'll say this. I think we all have had, I'm throwing things. We all had those, we've had the fights that we're not proud of, right? The way we've spoken to each other, the way I've not been loving, the way she's not been respectful, or whatever that looks like. And it just gets to where we're arguing for the sake of arguing, and we're maybe even far away from where the point of what it was. At that point, I think it is time to maybe go to the other room. And again, but they see that too. And so, hey, this might not be your business, what we're now going to go back here, but you saw it start here. We're going to go clean things up back here. We're going to get through this. We're going to work through it. And you're going to see that even with the bad, that mom and dad still get through it, and it's going to be okay. And we come out and we're on the couch and we're not faking it. We're not going to, if we're still mad at each other, we're still mad. But I mean, they normally see us, they get to see us, get all the way through it. What's appropriate for you as a parent, and the age of the kids and whatever that looks like, you've got to decide. So I think for the most part, if you're arguing about money, we've been very fortunate, haven't had an argument about money in a long time. But I know that's a common one, right? The actual dollars and cents of what's going on with your family budget is not specifically the 12-year-old's business, right? And so whether or not you're going to pay this bill versus do this thing, and I mean, that might not need to happen in front of them.
Yeah, and I would say too, like, I mean, and this doesn't happen very often, so I'm trying to even think, but I just think it's good for kids to see that marriage isn't easy, and maybe that sounds bad, but I want them to see like it takes work, because they always say, oh, you guys have such a great marriage and our friends think you have such a great marriage. And I believe we do, but they see that it takes work. It takes time, commitment, prayer, dates, talking things through. And if we bicker about a little thing, you know, maybe they can see now that they're older, which parent was at fault, which one is being a little petty, and they'll start to kind of notice. And then when they see that parent apologize and come to the other parent, I think that's important, because they're like, okay, dad was hungry, he got a little cranky.
Oh, you guys keep bringing up food. Is this like a common, like, you know, first, like, is that a Snickers commercial?
Carry snacks for me.
Well, you know, we didn't have time to prepare this question, so I'm just like coming up with this on the.
Okay.
I will say this though too, because we've talked about the fights and how it's important to fight in front of your kids. It's important to gross your kids out a little bit too. Like, they need to know that what physical love, you know, looks like, that's at an appropriate level. They know that is, and so, you know, if you haven't like made your teenager roll their eyes because you've gone up and maybe, I don't know, patted on something, whatever. I mean, that those types of things need to be seen as well.
That's awesome. Guys, thank you so much. Everybody watching, like, guys, we can't do this alone. No one's perfect. So if you're feeling the pressure to strive to make your kids perfect, it'll never happen. They won't be perfect. So not give up, but maybe just be more realistic and realize that we don't have perfect marriages, but we have a perfect God that loves us perfectly, that will help us perfectly in every moment. And if you're needing help in any other way, Gateway is an amazing church that wants to help you. If you need any help with counseling or just a place to belong, guys, get into a group. So don't do this alone. If you don't have anybody else to talk to, find another couple and say, can we just meet together? And there you go. You got a group, and you guys can talk and encourage each other, not complain the whole time, but encourage and pray for each other. We love you. If you need anything at all, just text 71010 or connect to 71010, and we're here to help you. Guys, thank you for watching. Collins, thank you so much for being here. We love you all. You're awesome. Bye.